Ibrahim Traoré had faced wars, political turmoil, and life-threatening situations before, but nothing prepared him for what happened that cold night in New York City, a moment that would haunt him forever and at the same time restore his faith in humanity. He hadn't planned to be there alone. The diplomatic meetings were finished for the day, and his security detail insisted he stay in the hotel. But Traoré wasn't one to be confined. Dressed in a simple hoodie, jeans and sneakers, blending in with the sea of strangers, he stepped out into the city that never sleeps, craving anonymity, craving a taste of normalcy, just for a few hours. It was supposed to be a simple walk, a chance to clear his mind from the pressures of leadership, from decisions that could shift the future of nations. The vibrant noise of the city, the honking taxis, and the smell of roasted peanuts from street vendors filled the air as he wandered aimlessly through Midtown. But as the streets grew quieter and the neon lights gave way to dimmer, flickering lamps, something shifted. The air felt heavier. The hum of the city faded into an eerie silence. Instinct kicked in, the same instinct that had kept him alive through coup attempts and battlefields. Someone was watching. At first it was subtle, footsteps matching his pace. Then a whisper, a shadow darting behind a trash bin. He quickened his step, turned left into a narrow side street to cut across to the busier avenue. But the shortcut was a mistake. Out of the darkness, two figures emerged, tall, broad, masked. One carried what looked like a crowbar, the other gripped something tucked under his jacket. A glint of metal confirmed it was a knife. "This is a robbery!" the taller one snarled. His voice was rough, soaked in menace. "Wallet, watch, phone, now." Traoré stayed calm. Years of negotiation and military discipline anchored him. "Gentlemen, you don't want to do this," he said, trying to reason. "Shut up!" barked the second man, stepping forward. "Do it, or we'll cut you." It wasn't just a robbery. Their aggression, the twitch in their hands. They were nervous, desperate, maybe even high. This could spiral fast. Traoré slowly raised his hands, thinking. Should he give them what they want? Stall them? Fight? But before he could decide, a sudden blow crashed into his ribs. A steel boot. He stumbled back, breath knocked out. Another punch, this one to his jaw, sent him to the ground. Concrete scraped his palms as he tried to brace himself. For the first time in years, he felt truly powerless. Lying there, dizzy, struggling to get up, his mind raced. He thought of his family, his country. Was this how it would end? Not on a battlefield, not in the halls of power, but in a filthy alley thousands of miles from home. And then, it happened. A loud clang echoed through the alley. A small rock flew from the shadows, striking one attacker on the side of the head. "Hey!" "Leave him alone," a young voice yelled. Both attackers spun toward the sound. A skinny silhouette appeared, a kid, no older than 14. Torn hoodie, sneakers with holes, fists clenched, as if daring two grown men to take him on. "What the?" one muttered. Another rock sailed, hitting the other man's shoulder. "Back off!" the kid shouted again, voice trembling but defiant. In that split second of confusion, Traoré's survival instinct surged. He lunged at the man with the knife, grabbing his wrist, trying to twist it free. "Run! This way!" the kid screamed. Without thinking, Traoré shoved the attacker aside and bolted after the boy, adrenaline drowning out the pain. Footsteps thundered behind them as they sprinted down the alley, dodging trash cans, leaping over crates. They ran, not as a diplomat and a street kid, not as a man of power and a child forgotten by the world, but as two humans, desperately escaping the grip of death. The pounding of footsteps echoed through the maze of alleyways. Traoré's chest burned, his legs screamed in protest, but he pushed forward, following the ragged figure ahead. The kid was fast, nimble in a way only someone who knew these streets could be. "Come on, this way!" the boy shouted, darting left between two rusted fences. Traoré barely managed to squeeze through, scraping his shoulder against the metal. Behind them, one of the attackers cursed, his voice fading with distance. Either they weren't willing to chase further, or they were losing ground. After 3 more sharp turns and a frantic climb over a chain-link fence, the boy finally skidded to a stop behind a massive dumpster tucked into a shadowed corner. "Down!" the kid hissed, crouching. Traoré collapsed beside him, gasping for air. His heart pounded like a war drum in his ears. Sweat poured down his face. His ribs throbbed from the earlier kick and his jaw ached. For a few tense seconds, they sat in silence, listening. Footsteps, nothing. Muffled voices, fading. Finally, just the distant hum of the city. They're gone, the boy whispered, glancing over his shoulder. We lost him. Traoré leaned back against the cold brick wall, closing his eyes, letting the wave of adrenaline slowly ebb. You saved my life, he muttered between breaths. The boy shrugged. Didn't seem like you were doing too good on your own. Traoré chuckled despite the pain. You've got guts. Yeah, well, you kinda needed help. The two sat in silence for a moment, letting the reality of what had just happened settle. Then Traoré turned, finally getting a good look at the boy who had intervened. Skinny, dangerously so. His hoodie was torn at the sleeves, shoes duct-taped together. Dirt smudged his face, but his eyes were bright, sharp, alive in a way that few people Traoré had met ever were. Eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. What's your name? Traoré asked. Malik, the boy replied, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. You? Traoré paused. For the first time in years, he hesitated to answer. Saying his name carried weight. But looking into Malik's face, he realized this kid didn't care who he was. Not yet. Ibrahim, he said simply. Malik nodded. You're not from around here, are you? Not exactly, Traoré smiled. What gave it away? The accent. And you dress like someone who doesn't understand how rough this neighborhood gets after dark. Traoré chuckled, then grimaced as pain shot through his ribs. Yeah, lesson learned. A sudden seriousness crossed Malik's face. They could have killed you, you know. Guys like that. They don't care. If you hadn't fought back when you did. Traoré nodded slowly, his expression sobering. I know. A question burned on his lips, one he couldn't hold back. Why did you help me, Malik? You didn't know me. You didn't have to. The boy looked away, picking at a hole in his jeans. For a moment he didn't answer. Then softly, you didn't look like one of them. One of them? The bad ones. The ones who hurt people for fun. You looked scared. Scared like when I was little. Before I got used to it. The words hit Traoré like a punch to the chest. He wasn't expecting that. There was no bravado in Malik's voice, no arrogance, just cold, brutal truth. Besides, Malik added, voice almost a whisper, I figured if nobody helps, then what's the point? Traoré sat there stunned. In all his years dealing with leaders, soldiers, politicians, he'd never heard something so honest, so raw. You've got more courage than most men I've met, he finally said. Malik shrugged. Yeah, well, courage doesn't pay for food. Traoré turned to him, eyes narrowing with a decision forming in his mind. Maybe it's time someone paid you back. The cold of the pavement seeped into Traoré's bones as he leaned against the brick wall, watching Malik. The boy sat cross-legged, plucking at loose threads from his tattered hoodie, as if it were the most normal thing in the world to rescue a grown man from an armed attack. How long have you been out here? Traoré asked, his voice softer now. Malik didn't look up. Since I was 9. 9. The number punched through Traoré's chest. He couldn't imagine a child, any child, surviving these streets alone at that age. My mum, Malik started, then paused. She OD'd. Right over there by the bridge. Cops came. Took her body. Nobody came for me. I waited for a week. Then I just stopped waiting. Traoré swallowed hard, his hands clenched into fists without realizing. And your father? Don't know. Never met him. Heard he split before I was born, never mattered much. The boy spoke with a kind of numbness that was more frightening than anger. A numbness born from surviving too long in a world that didn't care. So you've been alone all this time? Traoré asked. Malik finally met his gaze. Yeah, Learned quick. Where to sleep, where not to, who to avoid. How to run, his lips curled into a crooked smile, and how to throw rocks at the right time. Traoré laughed, but it was a hollow sound. Yeah, you've got good aim. Malik grinned, then grew serious. But why were you even down here, man? This ain't a place for people like you. Traoré sighed. I needed to get away. Think. Be normal for a while. He paused, then added, didn't work out very well. Malik smirked. Yeah, welcome to New York. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Not awkward, just heavy. Weighted with understanding that didn't require more words. Finally, Traoré broke it. You could have run, Malik. You could have stayed hidden. You could have let them do whatever they wanted, but you didn't. Why? Malik didn't answer immediately. His fingers scraped the grime from beneath his nails as he thought. Then, quietly, because you looked scared. People who are scared don't deserve to be hurt. Not like that. I've seen bad people. They don't get scared. They smile when they hurt others. Traoré stared at him, feeling something tighten in his chest. You've seen too much for someone your age. Malik shrugged. Yeah, but you learn, or you don't make it. Traoré leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You're right. You learn, or you don't make it. His voice lowered, turning serious. Malik, you saved my life tonight. You didn't have to. You chose to. Malik didn't say anything, just looked down, scuffing his sneaker against the concrete, and because of that, I can't just walk away now. The boy's head jerked up, eyes wary. What do you mean? I mean, you helped me. Now it's my turn. Traoré's gaze was steady. I don't leave people behind. Not in my country. Not here. For the first time, Malik's bravado faltered. His voice was uncertain. People, they say stuff like that sometimes, then they disappear. Nobody sticks around. Traoré nodded. I understand. But I'm not nobody. The boy searched his face, trying to read him. For a second, Traoré saw something, hope maybe, flicker in Malik's eyes. But it was guarded, buried under years of disappointment. I don't know what you think you can do, Malik muttered, pulling his knees to his chest, but that nobody's ever tried before. Traoré's jaw tightened, a decision crystallized in that moment. Then I'll be the first. As the first rays of dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky with pale blues and golds, Traoré knew one thing for certain. The boy sitting next to him wasn't just someone who had saved his life. He was someone whose life was worth saving. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Malik stood and brushed the dirt off his jeans. You really want to help? He asked, glancing back at Traoré. Traoré pushed himself to his feet, wincing as his ribs protested. I do. Malik nodded, then pointed down the street. Then follow me. I know where those guys hang out. If you want to get your stuff back, and maybe teach them something, and this is the way. Traoré raised a brow. You know where they are? Malik scoffed. Of course I do. I know everyone who works these streets. The good, the bad, the really bad. Those two? They squat behind the old auto shop near the overpass. As they moved, Malik led with the precision of someone who had survived in this maze for years. He knew where to step to avoid the loud crunch of broken glass, when to duck under a half-collapsed fence, and how to navigate blind corners without being seen. We gotta be careful, Malik whispered. They might have friends. Traoré nodded. The warrior in him kicked back into focus. His breathing steadied, his hands relaxed, ready. He wasn't armed, but training taught him that awareness and timing were often more powerful than weapons. They reached the edge of the auto shop's crumbling lot. Malik pointed. See? Over there. Behind stacks of rusted car parts and broken crates sat the two attackers. One was counting through wallets and watches. The other smoked, glancing around with lazy vigilance. A third man stood nearby, backup. Traoré's eyes narrowed. His watch, his diplomatic credentials. It was all right there on the crate in front of them. Malik crouched beside him. "What's the plan?" Traoré smiled grimly. "We hit them fast. You create a distraction. I'll handle the rest." Malik grinned. "My specialty." The boy slipped away to the left, circling the lot. Moments later, a sudden crash rang out as a pile of metal barrels tumbled down. The men jumped, startled. "What the—" That was all Traoré needed. He moved fast, a blur of controlled aggression. He sprinted from cover, closing the distance before they could react. His shoulder slammed into the nearest attacker, sending him sprawling into the crates. The man with the crowbar swung wildly. Traoré ducked, drove his fist into the man's stomach, then a sharp elbow to his jaw. The attacker collapsed. The third man, the backup, and bolted immediately, sprinting away without looking back. The first attacker scrambled to his feet, pulling a knife, but before he could lunge, a rock, thrown with perfect aim, cracked against his temple. He staggered, and Traoré finished it with a hard punch that dropped him cold. Silence. Traoré stood, chest heaving, scanning for more threats. None. Malik popped up from behind a broken fender, grinning wide. "Man, you're better than some of the guys I've seen around here." Traoré walked over to the crate, collecting his belongings, wallet, watch, credentials. More than that, he found stolen IDs, cash, and phones, proof that these weren't random muggers. They were predators who'd been terrorizing the area for weeks. He pulled out his phone, finally activating the emergency diplomatic line. Within minutes, sirens echoed in the distance. When the police arrived, confusion turned to surprise as Traoré calmly showed his credentials. The officers stared. Not every day did a foreign head of state report a crime in person. "These two assaulted me and have been robbing others," Traoré stated firmly. "The evidence is here." As the officers cuffed the men, one detective turned to Malik. "And the kid?" Traoré stepped forward. "The kid's the reason any of this happened. He saved my life." Malik stood frozen. He wasn't used to anyone, especially someone important, calling him a hero. For the first time in years, someone saw him. As the morning sun climbed higher over the city skyline, the tension of the night slowly melted away. Police cruisers pulled away, sirens off now, the arrested attackers locked in the back seats. Officers logged the evidence, shaking their heads at the stash of stolen items recovered. Malik stood to the side, hands shoved deep in his hoodie pockets, watching it all like it was a movie he wasn't supposed to be part of. Traoré walked over, standing next to him in silence for a moment. Then quietly he asked, "So, what happens to you now?" Malik shrugged, eyes glued to the cracked sidewalk. "Same as always. Find breakfast, find somewhere safe to crash. Same old." "Not this time," Traoré said, voice firm. Malik's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" "I mean, come with me." Traoré turned to face him fully. "Let me help you. A place to stay. Food, school. A real shot at something different." Malik blinked, stepping back slightly. You serious?" "As serious as it gets." But Malik didn't answer right away. His face twisted with a mixture of hope, fear, and disbelief. "Look, people say stuff like that, nice stuff. Then they forget, or they change their mind, or they realize I'm just some street kid." Traoré crouched down slightly, lowering himself to Malik's level. "I don't forget. Where I come from, a promise means something. You saved my life, Malik. You didn't know who I was. You didn't do it because you thought you'd get anything out of it. You did it because you have a good heart." Malik bit his lip, eyes darting like he was trying to find the trap in the offer. "There's no trick," Traoré continued. "No catch. You come with me, and I'll make sure you have every chance you deserve." For a long, heavy moment, Malik said nothing. Then his shoulders sagged. "I don't even know how to do anything else," he muttered. "I've never been in school, never had a real home." Traoré smiled softly. "That's okay. You'll learn." Everyone starts somewhere. Silence stretched between them until Malik finally whispered, "Okay." A single word, but it carried the weight of a lifetime. The next few days moved like a whirlwind. Through diplomatic channels, TRAORÉ arranged everything: emergency shelter, legal support, and the start of a process that would give Malik not only protection, but opportunity. For the first time in years, Malik ate warm meals 3 times a day. He slept in a real bed. He sat in a clean room with counselors explaining what was next, what his options were. His walls of distrust didn't crumble overnight, but piece by piece, something else started replacing them: hope. TRAORÉ checked in constantly. "This isn't charity," he told Malik. "This is an investment in someone who's already proven braver than most." News of the incident quietly spread through diplomatic circles, though TRAORÉ requested no media coverage. This wasn't about headlines. It was personal. As the story came to a close, TRAORÉ's voice shifted, not as a victim but as a messenger. "I learned something that night," he said. "That bravery isn't always wearing a uniform. It isn't always in positions of power. Sometimes it's a kid, with nothing but a rock, a voice, and the courage to stand up when no one else will." He paused, then added, "If a boy like Malik can step up, what's stopping the rest of us?" And if this story inspired you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps us share more real stories that change the way we see the world. And right now, click the video that's appearing on your screen. Trust me, it's another powerful story you won't want to miss.